I guess that is a problem. And if there's not a sentence or two like that, if the comment is just, go die in a hole, delete the comment, block the author, and you're done.
I leave it on there because comment counts increase the heat of your story on fiction. Like, the best thing you could ever have is like a flame war in your comment. Because that'll make it stay at the top. I had a story, Shining Armor beats up Flash Sentry, which that was, you didn't know that was me? I read that one. Yeah, it is me. Okay, you can obviously tell from the title. Yeah, it's going to be controversial. That's the thing. I didn't delete any of the flame war comments. I was like, keep arguing. Keep like bringing up Adolf Hitler for whatever reason. It'll make my story go to the top of the chart. I don't care.
Praise God wins the law.
No such thing as bad publicity.
Exactly.
Pouring gas on the flame.
Flame the Kardashians.
Yeah, but that's the way 90 designed the site. Any comments is viewed as like it increases your heat rank.
So, yeah, but at the same time, I tend to believe white wars because personally, a story should stand on its own merit as opposed to, especially if the flame wars have nothing to do with the story itself. Now, if the arguments are about the story, keep it up. Because then it's relevant. You can see how the story is developed based on those like comments. A great example of this, I think, is Equestria Girls. Oh, the fandom as a whole hated that movie, and for good reason. That scene with Sunset in front of the mirror with the sledgehammer, that was the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And I've seen Birdemic, Shock, and Terror Control, too. Okay, so it's not
I'm gonna punch the air and break the air.
yeah, Chuck Norris can do that.
Chuck Norris could have broken that mirror with that hammer, but not
Sunset Hammer. That was, I mean, I can solve that whole story in like a couple sentences. Headbutt Sunset Shimmer, punch Principal Celestia in the kidney, grab the tiara, go home.
Yeah. You know what my biggest
Easy.
problem? My single biggest problem with the story, why are they in high school? By that point, Princess Twilight is a princess of Equestria. It's not like she's a vice princess. It's not like she's like the vice president. No, she's a princess. Celestia has elevated Twilight up to her level. So she's presumably the equivalent of, I don't know, not a high school graduate, a doctor, at least a master's degree, for God's sake. So why? Why is she in high school? Why are they all in high school? Like, this grand kingdom of Equestria is reduced to a high school to sell toys to their target demographic, and that's why. So,
What I was
that's
trying
the
to
answer.
make is, presumably, the team behind Equestria Girls looked at the Flame Wars and all of the very, 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 very vocal hatred for Equestria Girls and studied that and put that into Equestria Girls Rainbow Rocks, and lo and behold, Rainbow Rocks is actually good.
I haven't seen it, no spoilers.
So in the final scene of Rainbow Rocks,
Oh,
Thank
man,
you. Thank you. I don't care. I don't care.
more of a reference.
when aliens invade and Ebola hits Equestria.
Oh, wow. I need to see this movie now.
So the Titanic sinks, and it turns out Darth Vader's his father, and they've been dead all along. But anyway.
And Snape kills Dumbledore as well.
Oh, I didn't know that one.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You have hair.
I have very thick.
You do.
Thick, luscious, beautiful hair.
Welcome to our hair fiction convention.
Oh.
All we're discussing is hair. So Kira there has been winning so far.
Yes.
Yeah.
Quite lovely. Well, I don't know. That is the brightest red hair I have ever seen in my life. So good job. Good job.
Fluorescent red.
Fluorescent red.
It's fluorescent.
We're getting
So
off topic.
Flame Wars.
Yeah, Flame Wars.
We're talking about flame wars in the comments.
Yeah.
Of fan fiction, but it can be anything.
Yeah. He thinks that flame wars are good because it gets you more exposure.
It gets you more heat. People come in from all over everywhere. Like, one of my most popular fics ever was because it had a flame war and it stayed in the feature box because of the flame war. So why put out that fire? Why delete it as the author?
I think flame wars are I think they're really funny because
Me
how
too.
Like one of those car crashes.
some people are so stupid with what they say. I mean, it's
Serious
like they're not
business.
even saying anything other than oh. That's pretty much the only thing I hear out of those people when there's a saying. And then there's like that one person that's like, but yes, indeed, this is the actual reason why you should go away. Or like this fan fiction, and then there feels like that's what I think.
That's your detailed explanation.
It's like watching an argument between Hodor and Pikachu.
Yes. Or Blanca
Like
and
that.
Pikachu. Basically, anything that's an IQ below 30 and Pikachu.
Actually, that'd be more interesting than a lot of flame wars.
Yeah.
Well,
If you had an IQ below 30, I don't even think you could say Pikachu.
yeah.
Spell it.
I mean, like, spectrum of flame wars. Is there an example you give where there was constructive criticism and you actually implemented that into your stories? Or
Yeah, from a flame war or from...
just from comments. You know,
Oh,
maybe it was
comments.
from flame war.
I've done it from his comments. I've introduced an entire chapter just because he said, like, oh, hey, you know, why don't you assassinate, like, so-and-so? And I was like, okay, I'll try. Like, I did that. I was like, going to introduce a plotline.
Yeah, no, it totally has. I've rewritten.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for attending our
Yeah,
meal.
thanks for
We're
coming.
leaving the con, so it was great meeting all of you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye. Have a great time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Yeah. You know.
I've rewritten the whole story. I've rewritten full endings because a lot of new people came in. Who here is on Fanfic?
Yeah. I've been meaning to get there, but my writing skills just aren't quite up to par yet.
Well, you can still go on there.
Yeah,
read
just
and-
Oh.
just to read.
Or reader, sure.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
reading. Oh, yeah.
Just
yeah.
reading.
Just
Read
reading.
your I'm sorry, you kind of got...
Yeah.
I was reading one called Accidental Harmony, and there's a part where the Vinyl and Octavia come to Ponyville, and the author forgot about the appearance Vinyl made in the Student for Success. And so, like, somebody brought that up in the comments, so then in the next chapter she worked in that she was so drunk she forgot about it. Because they go, they're running a rare. She's like, I love it, we did my fashion show. And she's like, yeah. And then, like, Octavia asked her, what are you talking about? I was like, I think I would have been here. I'm just so drunk I don't remember.
That hard apple cider.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Yup.
But yeah, no, I've written the whole endings. I don't know if any of you know Alondro on Fanfiction.
I know.
Yeah.
I know everybody.
You know him?
Yeah.
And how vocal he can be if he hates something. And
No comment. I'm just gonna stay with
tactful. By that I mean not at all. And anyway, yeah, he is not afraid to tear something mind apart. He's done it. Violently.
But he had a few good points.
But he had a few good points.
in the beginning.
Now,
Let's just say that.
the Parasprite. You know the Parasprite, right?
Yes, I know her.
The Parasprite's a dude. The Parasprite? His name is the Parasprite. I'm not talking about like, oh, Parasprite equals troll. There's a guy on fanfiction.net whose name is the Parasprite.
Yeah.
Where are you getting this female from? No, I'm saying to him. He said he thought it was he was a she.
Parasprite. Like friends with Kai.
Yeah, he runs all these chats. He's a dude, man. He's a dude.
But how is it
Might have
assumed
been
that he
different.
is even a girl in the first place?
Who knows? Who knows? I made the same mistake too.
It's the
And I mean,
fear.
nowadays you never know. You don't want to offend people, and so I always just wait until people say. That's the best. That's the best recipe.
Maybe we could just assume everyone's an it.
No, that's demeaning. Everyone's an XIR, Zer.
Okay.
Wait, I don't know what the pronoun is. I don't know. I try
Yeah,
not. I'm not. Okay, yeah. I mean, just try not to offend people because more people will listen. I mean, that's the bet. More flies with honey than with honey. So, but anyway, the Parasprite. I mean, yeah, he'll be like, oh, blah blah blah. Like he'll use like really offensive terms. Like he'll say like, oh, this is like you're autistic or you're a faggot or you're whatever. He'll use really offensive things. But in all that really, to some people, not to me, I don't care. I don't get offended when people call me whatever. But like to some people, even if you dig through all that, even in that, you can still find useful things that he says.
Yeah, and again, if it's flat out trolls, like my most famous character is a human OC named TD. Somebody wrote a troll fic where he raped Shirley's class. That, among other things, got him banned from things. It got the guy who wrote it banned from fanfiction, but I blocked him.
You can get banned from fanfiction for writing something too violent and offensive for fanfiction.
I'm wondering what the heck this guy wrote if he got banned.
Yeah, the
Well, again, it was among other things, but it was like he did it specifically to be a dick to me.
so it was like an attack piece.
It was an attack piece on me.
It was a diss story.
Yes. And then another guy linked it to me, and the note attached to it was "Enjoy your autism," and I blocked him, and I don't care. I'm like, I didn't make a big deal out of it because if I made a big deal out of it, then it gets exposure.
Yeah, even
And
if you
people
get offended,
know-
don't let someone know you're offended. Like that's the worst thing you can do because they're just gonna keep like all these Tumblrs or whatever that are just like devoted to people getting offended by whatever or social justice warriors. Like they're kind of being counterproductive because if you do that, you're just kind of encouraging people to just deliberately offend you.
Yeah, and that brings nothing if you ignore them, especially online.
Yeah.
If online, you can block them. There's a block button.
There was this one person, I think it was last night. A friend of mine was just going through Facebook or whatever, and it said season 5 canceled due to voice actor quitting.
Oh yeah, I got that.
And I look at this. I'm like, wait a second. During the off season or when the season is running, the last one, they're working on the next one. Season 5 has been completed, and they're working on season 6 as we speak. That doesn't make any sense. Why would they stop airing something that's already been completed just because someone
Well, if
quit?
it's completed, why won't they give us the release date?
Out of respect. That's the thing. When Heath Ledger died, didn't they finish up a movie he was in process of working
Yeah,
on?
Dr. Barnett.
Yeah, like if they're willing to do that with an actual. What they finish after Robin Williams?
The Night of the series. He's still. No, I think he's still in like 3 movies now.
Yep. Yeah.
He's
So
got
I mean,
like 3 final movies.
yeah, and I mean his death. I mean, that got like a lot of exposure. But yeah, like if they're willing to finish a movie of someone who like killed himself and presumably didn't want to keep making movies. No, it's like, no, you signed a contract. You're not getting out of it that easy, Robin Williams, buddy. We're still making a movie with you in it. We'll just edit around the parts you haven't made yet. Like, killing yourself does not excuse you from a contract. So, like, they would never cancel such a profitable franchise just because one of the voice actresses happened to die.
So basically, you're saying is that Robin Williams, you're dead now, so we're speaking you in the afterlife. You cannot get around this contract, so please be resurrected so that we can finish this movie.
No, I'm saying they're going to use what they already have.
Yeah,
and yeah.
a good example of
That's
that.
what they'd say to his estate. If his estate was like, out of respect for the deceased, don't make this movie. Like Hollywood, they put millions and millions and millions of dollars into these movies.
No.
Like, they would fight to still release the movie even though he was dead.
There was this one kung fu movie or whatever it is, where they were in the middle of making it, and the main actor died.
Wasn't
So-
that Bruce Lee or was that Bruce Lee's kid?
I don't remember who. I don't remember
Bruce Lee.
what the
Brandon
movie.
Lee.
I don't remember
Brandon Lee
what the
died
movie
during the
was.
pro.
I don't remember who it
Bo
was.
Peep died in Toy Story 3.
What?
Bo Peep died in Toy Story 3. That's an example.
Spoiler alert! Hello.
No, in the wait, no. In the middle of producing it, the voice actors for Bo Peep died, so they had to remove Bo Peep's role.
Oh,
The
That just
entire-
makes that line, yeah.
Yeah, but it was like I
Even
was saying.
sadder, geez.
They took someone who looked like him, and they redid his makeup and redid some of the scenes and put shades on him. Like there's this one where he's just sitting there looking in a mirror, being all menacing, and instead they just took the person who's in the middle of that in that shot, put some sunglasses on him, threw some makeup on him, and he just said nothing. They just altered the script on the fly.
I think we've gotten off topic here. What are you?
Oh, I was just saying, you brought up that you have an OC, and I apologize, but I have sort of a bias against OC. That's like I immediately read X, any stories with OCs in them, because I feel like, and I know that's unfair to a lot of writers out there, and I apologize for that, but to me, it's just so much of the time, this is this person's personified, this is just sort of wish fulfillment, and if you are going about creating a character, how do you maintain, how do you keep them good? How do you, maintain that balance that, yes, I can believe that this character can exist in this world and they're not providing an overly exaggerated role?
Avoid a lot of the big tropes. Most stories tend, that was a whole contest on Fanfic. Any story can be good if it's done the right way. Which I find to be true. But probably one of my best stories, certainly my longest, 208,000 words, is my OC, my human OC. And this on paper sounds horrendous, but everyone loves it. Is instead of Twilight ascending at the end of season 3, he ascends. He gets to rule Baltimore. He gets his own army, and he starts a relationship with Celestia. By all logic, that should not work. That sounds like every single stereotype. That sounds like every single Mary Sue stereotype ever.
Yeah.
But it works. Why? Because he himself is a good, believable character. You have to make the audience believe the character. You have to make them connect with the character. You have to make them, I don't want to say human. Well, if they are human characters, then yes, human. Think about why you relate to your favorite pony. What makes you enjoy them? What traits? Or what trait makes you enjoy a character in general? Also, you got to give them conflict, realistic conflict.
Where did this come from? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just say things to myself.
What is it? Is it?
It's the flim flam.
Oh, came from a back.
You have to give them a realistic goal. So TV's goal throughout the series is get out of Equestria, get home. Although book 3, he's forget it.
We have to build an army. He has you got made it. You got it pretty well.
That's a separate universe. There are 3 separate, 4 separate universes. But a third canon book. You travel the whole globe. Figured out, okay, no way.
What do you suggest perspective of characters? Is it first person or third person? What do you recommend?
I always do. The only
third person. You ever do first person? I flip.
maybe 1 or 2 left.
My TV stories are all first person. And they alternate between first person. Some of them are first person present tense, and some of them are first person past I prefer doing first person past tense. It's easier to do show versus tell, I find, in first person. It's easier to just describe things, I find, because you're seeing it through that character's eyes, as opposed to, okay, how do I naturally describe what's going on? But if it's in first person, it's very easily to naturally describe what's going on, because it's like, okay, this is what the character is experiencing. He's telling us what he's experiencing and how he's reacting to it, either through interacting with another character or X, Y, and Z.
And in my opinion, it's not like there's a correct thing. I just prefer third person, but first person, there's a lot of great, I mean, let me talk up first person. There's a lot of great stuff you can do in first person. You can give the world through a particular person's eyes. You get like kind of a window into how they're thinking. And their view of the world, if you can actually make it, might not be the correct one. Like, you know, what's like Catcher in the Rye. Like everybody, like, you know, you got Holden Caulfield. He's like running around calling everybody phonies or whatever. He just like, you know, everything sucks or whatever. That's not how reality actually is, but that's just how it's portrayed, you know, through him. So you have
yourself. Phony.
Sorry. So yeah, first person gives you a great way of like saying, okay, here's how a particular person views the world, and you as the reader are reading this, and you might get the sense that, you know, maybe this person maybe they're kind of biased, you know, but you can step into their shoes. And that's the advantage of first person. You know, it more readily immerses them in the character. Bad news when it comes to first person, you know, unless you want to do a lot of perspective switching like they did in, you know, the Animorphs series, unless you want to do that, you're kind of stuck with just one person. But the third, you can, you know, if it's omniscient, if it's third person limited, then, you know, you're kind of stuck. But if it's third person omniscient, then you can just jump around. So if you have like a really, really like complicated story with like, you know, like whole spreadsheets of like what you want, what we're gonna have happen, like, you know, giant like hundreds of characters or whatever, then third person omniscient might be the way to go. Because if you do that, then you can jump around and you keep the same voice. So it's not like, you know, you have different voices. Right, okay, now I'm writing this character, you know. Of course, you still have to keep track of their personalities. And you have to give everybody, you know, reasonable flaws. And that's the main reason I think people don't like OCs, is because a lot of them are just like, you know, Mary Poppins are practically perfect in every way. So, you know, as long as you write an OC who's not like a two-dimensional, like they have dimension and depth. So, and yeah, first person is a great way to do that. Third person is fine, but you have to be careful with third person, because you can't do like, what's it called, like mental like ping pong or tennis match or whatever, where you like switch. Don't do this. I'm just telling you what some people do. Don't do it though. Some people switch from like telling you one character's thoughts, emotions, feeling, etc., into another, and then to another or whatever. I mean, you should never do that.
Yeah, and to tie that into the OC thing, as you were saying with like Holden Caulfield and stuff, an OC can give you Caulfield.
Okay, that's what I thought.
An OC can give you a fresh perspective on a familiar world. So that's one of the reasons people have told me that they like GD so much, is because he's this cynical guy who can kind of be a jerk. He's not a brony. But at the same time, he's not a complete, like, a lot of OCs I find tend to be extremes. So if they're a good guy, they're a saint. If they're a bad guy, they're
really
worse
really
than Hannibal Lecter. And if they're an anti-hero, they're extremely dark and brooding.
Did you have a question, sir?
EOCs who exist that were predominantly kind of sort of like a straw loser archetype.
Straw loser?
I.e. just seems like it's never their day.
But that's kind of their character trait.
There's a couple like that. I mean, I think as long as a character, like, as long as they have ups and downs, one of my favorite, like, authors who gives advice on how to write is Nathan Bransford. So, you know, I'm sort of stealing this from him. It's called, like, tent poles. You know, you have poles hanging up a tent. So you have, like, ups, you have downs. You have, like, tent poles. And they're the major things that happen. So, I mean, you know, something good and something bad, then something, and you can't have it be, like, you can't have it be too dramatic, and you can't carry it on for, like, a million words. But a good thing to do is, like, you don't want, I think TV Tropes calls it what, like a wubby or something, or like kick the dog.
Yeah. Will be kind of sound similar. I actually have a trope called Straw Loser, where the person's just well known for just being referred to as the complete total loser of the story.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to play it up for laughs, like if you're writing a comedy, then go for it. But, you know, you gotta throw a bone to every once in a while.
Because just dark. The audience, the audience works through. The readers get just emotionally disconnected from it because it's like you can't handle reading about this abuse anymore. You gotta have some ups to the characters, which also has the dual effect of making the dark that much worse. So, like, it's like, oh, things are finally going well for him. Oh, no, they're not anymore. That just makes it worse. It's like, Kurt Vonnegut said, abuse your characters, no matter how innocent they are, so that you can truly see what they're made of.
Breaking Bad. Yes, thank you. That's a great example. And probably one of my favorite things about Breaking Bad, it's not all dark all the time. There's, like, some genuinely, like, funny, lighthearted scenes in Breaking Bad. Like, and I think that's, like, I think that's good. It gives your, in this case, TV watcher, it gives the person who's consuming the media, like, a chance to have a breather, like, you know, have a laugh, whatever. You know, B, gives the characters a rest. You know, C, it provides contrast to, like, oh, now we got to go melt a body in a bathtub of acid. Oh, now we got to go, you know, knock off this drug lord. You know, whereas, you know, the episode of the scene before is like, you know, Jesse Pinkman playing around, you know, in the lab while Walter's gone. So like, yeah, I think that's a great example, and like that's, I mean, you know, how I think if you're doing like a really dark story, that's how I think you should do it.
And there's also more true to life. And the most disturbing stories I've found are the ones that are closer to life and would hit closer to home. So to me, Funny Games is a way more disturbing movie than, say, Friday the 13th. Because we all know Jason Voorhees isn't real. I mean, sure, a guy could dress up in a hockey mask and start killing people, but there's no zombie killer who you could shoot 30 times with a grenade launcher and he'd still get back up somehow in the end, just in time for the next sequel. But in Funny Games, it's two 20-somethings who kidnap and psychologically torture your family and then kill them all in the end. What's going to stop that from happening? Like in real life? Nothing. So,
a better mental health care system.
Yeah. But life isn't all dark. So there are ups and downs to life. So having your story be all dark and all brooding and all disturbing, it just doesn't work like that. I mean, I've had some nasty times in my life. But we all have. I mean, if you haven't had a nasty time in your life,
do let us
know. I want your life.
Yeah, do let us know how you've avoided that.
Yeah, so I can do so in the future. But
hey,
even in those bad times,
in the back.
So, like, there's nothing like, I know
Same thing could be said about everything happy in the film, or like a story.
I think it depends on what you're going for, honestly. Like, nothing that we have said here, or okay, I won't say nothing. Very few things that we've said here can be taken as a hard and fast rule to be applied all the time. The same goes for, moderate whatever with whatever. If you're doing a comedy, you're not gonna have like a random like someone gets butchered scene. By the same token, if you're doing like a really dark, like Funny Games is the one you're talking about, or like Saw, then you're not going to have like in the middle everybody burst out in a musical number. I mean,
That sounds like an
it
idea.
depends on what you're going for. So those two extremes, yeah, that's fine because they're extremes. But if you get in towards the middle, you're like, oh, hey, this is a story about X person doing such and such. And, it's not explicitly tagged or marketed or whatever as on one of those two polar opposite extremes. And it's long enough, that's the key length. The longer it goes on, the more you have to temper it and have, 10 poles or whatever. That's the more you got to do. So the longer it is and the more towards the middle it is, means that, yes, you have to temper it, whether it's normally an upbeat story, very special episode, sitcoms are famous for that. Like the episode where I think in Frasier where Niles gets cancer or whatever, or the episode where so and so is addicted to drugs or whatever. Even though it's normally a sitcom. So yeah, the longer something goes on, anything, a story on thin fiction, whatever, the more you have to eventually just okay, do I want to temper this? Do I want to contrast it with something? And I think that's an important thing. Anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, unless you're writing a crack fic, which I guess wouldn't suggest. I really wouldn't.
Why not? Why wouldn't you suggest crack fics? Some of my best stories are crack. Okay, some of my most well-received stories are crack fics.
Crack fics
Gotta get your crack
are
fics.
like crack, to be used sparingly and only in the best.
We're not advocating. We're not advocating any illegal activity. Okay, yeah. Again, I personally, I have several. Most of them are have really catchy titles to get people to read them, like Westboro Baptist Church in Equestria, or Justin Bieber in Equestria. Really, really controversial things. I can just make I can insert my own voice and my trademark sarcasm into, and hopefully get a few more followers and likes from, and hopefully have a good time writing it because I find that sort of thing to be fun.
And that's another thing. Find your voice.
Yeah.
Find your rhythm. We're not going to write anything good until you do.
And that's the thing is, when I first started writing, I kind of think and this is the problem. Again, if you can pull this off, great for you. Good for you. I'm just telling about my own personal experience. When I first started writing, I kind of inserted, myself and my own way that I talked, if that makes any sense, into the voice I was writing. It's like you're talking to someone and they're just every 5 seconds they're giving an example of something that happened the other day. Don't do that. Don't write like that. You want your voice should be you, but it should be as unobtrusive as possible. If you read that, you shouldn't, unless you're a master who can pull this off, who is that good. Probably one of my favorite writers ever is C.S. Lewis, and he has the best voice, but it's not too obtrusive, but it is distinct. It is distinctly him, and you can. So unless you can do that, which not all people can, and if you're a writer, there is nothing wrong with not having a really everybody remembers so and so for the writing voice. Everybody remembers Catcher in the Rye for how bitingly sarcastic and sardonic and negative. No, you don't have to do that. You don't sometimes people just want, believe it or not, sometimes people just want to read a story. And they're concerned less with the person who's telling it than they are with the ideas conveyed within. Not all the time. People watch Quentin Tarantino movies just because he did it. You know, people read books by X author just because that author wrote it. But a lot of times, most of the time, in most cases, people just want a good story. So they don't care who it is. So again, you want to have your voice. You want to have it. You want to have a distinct one. You want to know where you're going. You don't want to launch into purple prose where you're describing everything as like majestic and whatever in 1 second, and then in the next, you're like really sparse trying to get everything out. No, you want to be consistent above all else. And then once you do that, your voice as an author, it'll be unintrusive. It'll help convey the story more. And again, it's like I said, very few things we've said can be taken as absolutes. I think that's a good general rule. But again, in some cases, please do feel free to break it.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of stories I found, this might be the best comparison, but it's like food sometimes. I mean, you got your small, like, little comedy one-shots. It's kind of like, a quick dessert or something like that. But you got like your long stories that could be like your long intelligent stories could be like your steak and potatoes dinner or something like that.
Yeah.
So it all depends on what you're after and what you want to make, so to speak.
Okay. Do we have more questions? I'm sure someone can think of something. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep going.
Yeah. Also, it is imperative that you have a good understanding of the characters before going to writing them, because it's a lot easier to
stick with a personality mold that you've already made than it is to try and mold like something that's already in progress that you've already written so much of.
Yeah, and it's also easier to add on something to a character you already understand than it is to take something away or add on something to a character you don't understand. So, like in the show, it's like they reveal Fluttershy has a freaky knowledge of sewing. It's believable.
Yeah.
That sounds like something Fluttershy could conceivably do. So if you're writing a story about how Rarity's... I read a comic where Rarity's secret passion is archery. It worked really well because just of the way that they portrayed Rarity doing it.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that's when you're writing an original character, or if you're writing original fiction. When you're writing a character who is already on the show, unless they're a background character or like have only been given one or no lines, in which case, please feel free to breathe whatever personality into them you want. And like, that's the thing. That's what I always do. Most of my story, like my longest stories, I don't focus on any of the main characters, but I don't do OCs either. I just have characters who are in maybe 1 or 2 episodes and never say anything. Because there you go. It's a perfect template to use. But if you are doing characters who have many lines and have many appearances, then what you want to do is, just kind of think about if you're watching an episode of the show, like, okay, what would Pinkie Pie do in this situation? Oh, she'd probably say something funny. Oh, she'd probably make a joke. She'd probably laugh.
Yeah.
What would Rainbow do in this situation? She'd probably try to punch it on the nose. So you gotta sort of put yourself in their horseshoes. You gotta give yourself their point of view and their perspective.
So, do you write background characters that the fan interprets, or just how you interpret them?
I write background characters how I think they might potentially be, I guess. I mean, I don't, okay, I don't use, Lyra, Bon, Derpy, Vinyl yet. I mean, okay, some they're not the main ones. Like, you know, I use characters, you know, like Prince Blue Blood, or like, you know, Pounded Pumpkin Cake. Like characters who have maybe 5 lines or no lines in the whole show, who are just like, oh, what do they do when they're not on screen? Who knows?
And it also very much depends on the story. Like in one of my stories, yeah, I use the whole Bon and Lyra are very close. Lyra is obsessed with humans because it just fit with the chapter. But in another story, I had Doctor Who, Time Turner. He was Doctor Who's Time Turner. Carrot Top, Bon and Lyra. I don't know if any of you have seen Dick Dastardly and Muttley and his flying machines, or yeah, Wacky Racers, or the Stop the Pigeon. But I wrote a parody of that with the 4 of them playing the roles in that show, and they're instead of a pigeon, they're trying to stop Derpy. And you know, they're nothing like their fandom personas; they're more like the personas from that show. So, yeah, it really all depends on the kind of story you want to write. I mean, there's like he said, there's no set rule with background characters. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
people have written serial killer
sometimes,
backgrounds.
yeah, sometimes though you can take a minor
Whatever.
detail about a background character and make it a huge part of their personality, like Derpy Hooves and Muffins. Like, for God's sake, when she said muffins, she was in a crowd of other ponies who were also looking at those muffins, and it was one time. She was probably hungry. What did it get turned into? She's like a freak about muffins. But hey, you know, that's fine. I've done that too with characters I've written, where I take like a minor thing, and turn it into a big part of their personality. That's perfectly fine to do. It gives you a nice template to go after. So, there you go.
Yeah. And a lot of fan fiction is just springboarding.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of my inspiration is after watching an episode and going, or just looking at some character trait and going, what if that went a little farther? Or worked a little differently? Or why didn't they look into that more?
Yeah.
So,
that's my bread and butter, honestly.
yeah,
That's
like, what would happen if you just mixed a little bit of blue with the green?
Exactly.
That's what's fun about fan fiction. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
I think society as a whole says that, oh, fan fiction is this negative thing. It's all it is porn and like low grade trash
and Mary Sue
crap. And honestly, that's often not the case. Sometimes it is. I mean, I cannot deny that sometimes, yes, that is the case. We have all heard of 50 Shades of Grey. Touchdown, Denver. Woohoo! 7-3 Denver. Anyway,
we've all heard of what's that Harry Potter one? It's the one where there's like they're all vampires or whatever. No, it was actually before. It was before. I'm gonna remember it in a minute. I'm gonna feel so stupid that I didn't remember it. It was like some people actually think it was a troll fit. I can't remember though. I'm not gonna talk about it so I remember what it's called.
Yeah,
but
anyway, yeah. But if you look back at history, like what we said at the beginning of this panel,
yeah, like Dante's Inferno.
Dante's Inferno is fan fiction. Paradise Lost, fan fiction. And if you look back, you'll find, I think, a lot of the things you've written just in the past, like for school projects or whatever, is fan fiction. Because I've noticed that after I started writing fan fiction, because I'm like, I got like a Harry Potter journal when I was in 4th grade, and I wrote some stuff in it that now that I think back was self-insert Harry Potter fan fiction. Whoa. My
Dear
mom-
diary, this is my first day at Hogwarts.
That's exactly what it was.
I just got put into Hufflepuff House. Now no one's going to care about me.
That was exactly what it was. And my mom told me like some script she wrote for the Star Wars prequels back when she was a kid, and I'm like, that's fan fiction. And she's like, no way, that totally was.
Remember Badger's Star Trek fan fiction from Breaking Bad? Anyone remember that scene?
Oh yeah.
Where he's talking about like beaming the blueberries like out of the yeah. Mm-hmm. Red hair guy question.
Sunset Shimmer.
Sunset Shimmer question. Yeah, I asked you a question. How are you going to break that mirror? How are you going to do that?
What are you? It's a sledgehammer. It's not that difficult to break glass.
It's not glass. It's a two-way portal.
It's a portal.
Powered by glass. When the portal's not there, it's just a mirror.
But the portal was there. It was that evening.
But you break the top of it.
Well, Twilight didn't know that. Whatever. I'm just wondering, it's a sort of big question, but in the scale of fan fiction, do you think there's been much progression? Because I remember back in the day, like when the internet started up, like websites for fan fiction, those first started out, and now we're like, you know, just not too many years from that beginning or from like the creation in general. Have you seen any progression with fan fiction in terms of going along the lines with the actual, like the general storytelling methods?
You mean, are you talking about quality, or are you talking about
just in general
change in? Well, I'd imagine so, because you look at how people write has changed over the years. I mean, if Lord of the Rings were released as a book now and it never had been before, or if like Dante's Inferno or whatever, or like the earliest ever religious text of, you know, pick whatever religion, if any of those were released nowadays, they would like stay in obscurity and be put on like the back of the bookshelf or the e-book, the internet bookshelf now. Like they'd be put towards the back. So people's writing styles do change. And I think like nobody is going to say, come hither, quote Fluttershy, like unless they're writing Luna. Like nobody's gonna write like that anymore. So I think as the culture changes, as writing style changes, as certain, oh hey, now it's really popular, you know, because of Hunger Games to do things in first person present narrative, or you know, hey, it's really popular because of Twilight, you know, write stories about vampires or put in a bunch of M dashes on every single page that aren't needed. Then yeah, like those trends can teach to fan fiction writers. So